The United States enters the final stretch of the presidential election. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris step up their efforts to win votes on the eve of the polls. Democrat Kamala Harris and her Republican opponent Donald Trump enter the final full day of campaigning amid a split in the electorate, nationally and in 7 key swing states. Polls show Harris and Trump are neck and neck in an early vote of more than 74 million citizens, with both Democrats and Republicans breaking records for turnout in the last 2 elections. The main parties have flooded social networks and various media outlets with advertising campaigns in search of votes. Let's now welcome international analyst Arnold August to go deeper on Tuesday's key presidential election in the U.S. Hello, Arnold. Welcome again to From the South.
Thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with teleSUR.
It's always our pleasure as well. Arnold, what were the key topics that dominated the presidential race, and how do you believe they resonate with international concerns?
Well, in my view, there is one main issue that erupted during the election campaign, and that is the issue of Palestine. No one in the United States could deal with it. That is the issue right up to the elections tomorrow. And we talk about swing states, like how does Kamala Harris deal with the issue of Palestine, given the fact that her administration with Joe Biden oversaw and still today oversees the notorious genocide against the Palestinian people, as well as the barbaric aggressions against Lebanon. When she has, it's interesting to see how they operate. This is typical of American politics, I have to say. When she's in Pennsylvania, one of the swing states, Harris puts emphasis on keywords that appeal to many of the Jewish voters or the pro-Zionist voters in Pennsylvania. Using terms such as, Israel has a right to defend itself, etc., which is, in my view, the term Israel has a right to defend itself is synonymous with accepting genocide. However, when she goes to another swing state, for example, in Michigan, where there's a very important politicized Muslim Arab community in that state, she has a different story. She says something else. She does not say Israel has a right to defend itself. She puts a lot of emphasis on, of course, hypocritically, because they're the ones who did it, right? Biden and Harris, hypocritically about the dire situation of the people in Gaza and also in Lebanon. But she still says that key word. She is in favor of bringing home the hostages. So her main emphasis in Michigan is to garner sympathy from the American Muslim population there. And so she puts emphasis on the suffering of the Palestinian people, but she still managed to put in that key word, bring the hostages home. In my view, bring the hostages home without mentioning the thousands of political prisoners that are tortured and gang raped in the jails and the prisons of Israel. Know what is happening in Gaza. The other atrocity in Gaza is, in fact, to put all the emphasis in support of Israel. So that is, one of the main features of the swing states. Will she succeed in doing it? I don't know. But in any case, talking about swing states and Palestine, which in my view is the issue, something new came up yesterday, which I'd like to share with you and the teleSUR audience, which I'm sure is interested, given the fact there's a widespread support for Palestine amongst the people in the United States, Canada, and other countries that are listening to your program. And this is what happened yesterday, a breakthrough. We often hear in the mainstream media, Republicans versus Democrats. From time to time recently, Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party, she erupted in the news a few weeks ago, not because they wanted to acknowledge that she is important because of her stance openly in favor of Palestine, but they had no choice. She erupted in the news. Now, what happened yesterday was that there are 3 main parties that oppose the two-party system, that is the Democrats, Republicans, and support Palestine. One is Jill Stein's Green Party. The other is Claudia de la Cruz and her party. And thirdly, Cornel West. Three different organizations, important personalities in progressive circles in the United States. They reached the following agreement yesterday. They agreed to, first of all, not all of these candidates, because of the Democratic attempt to keep them off the ballots. Repeat, Democrats keeping the third parties off the ballots, not the Republicans. Because of that, they have decided, these three entities have decided, where they are on the ballots, of course, they will present themselves. But where they did not succeed in getting on the ballot, they would support another candidate who is on the ballot. So you have this collaboration going on where, if they're on the ballots, they vote for, they appeal to vote for their candidate. But if they are not on the ballot, for example, if Claudia de la Cruz or Dr. Stein is not on the ballot in such a state, they are asking for voters to vote either for Cornel West or Claudia de la Cruz. This is very significant. Now, a lot of people are putting pressure on them, saying, "Oh no, if all this vote builds up, this is going to take away votes for the Democratic Party." Let's go into it. First, I'd like to point out why it's important for listeners to know about those three parties. What do they have in common? One, against the duopoly, which in my view, that is the key thing. Remember, only about 55% of the voting age population vote in the U.S. elections. That is, there is a huge amount of a lack of confidence in the two-party system. Secondly, they support Palestine without any reservation. Thirdly, they oppose black liberation. They also support the issues of environment and the question of the right of the working people and women. This is what they have in common. And they have worked out this arrangement yesterday. In my view, it will be historic. Perhaps we will see how far they can get to build a new base in the United States that goes against the two-party system.
As we were saying, Palestine has been one of the main topics, and now these issues, as we were reporting, we reported that also on these days of this alliance with third parties criticizing the dual party and not believing in the efficiency. But what other key foreign policy issues do you think will be influenced by the outcome of this election, and how might they shift under the new administration?
Well, I don't think. Well, firstly, just to say, I say Palestine is the main issue. But of course, it's not the only issue. Let's take the issue of the war in Ukraine. Now, Kamala Harris of the Democratic Party, so-called Progressive Democratic Party, so-called party of the left in comparison to Donald Trump's Republicans, she has said, firstly, in the course of her campaign, that she wants to have the most lethal army in the history of the world. If that is a warmongering statement, I don't know what, if that's not a warmongering statement, please suggest another one that is as warmongering as this, based on the history of the U.S. military, going back to the early stages of the United States and carrying out aggression, coup d'etat, etc., against the peoples of the world. So the issue of Ukraine is very interesting. So, of course, she wants to carry on full support of Ukraine. Now, I'm not a supporter of Trump, but one has to say the following. In a debate that took place, TV debate that took place between Harris and Trump, I think it was about a month ago, one of the hosts asked Trump, "Do you support unhesitantly, without condition, Ukraine against Russia?" You know what? Trump refused to answer that. He did not say yes unconditionally. This is different from Kamala Harris. And on the issue of, for example, on Venezuela, I think the situation in Venezuela is extremely touchy, very, very difficult. We know what happened on July 28th after the elections. I was there in Caracas before and during the elections, and witnessed directly or indirectly through television when Maduro showed the films of the fascist attacks in Venezuela. I saw that on television in my hotel room. So now, the fascist attack against Venezuela, of course, this was facilitated by none other than Biden and, and Harris, who refused to recognize Maduro as the lawful winner of the elections. Now, these fascist attacks against Venezuela are increasing. Just yesterday, there was a news coming out of Venezuela where President Maduro announced that they got wind of more fascist attacks being organized by the United States from their territory, with Venezuelans going to Venezuela illegally in order to carry out other type of guarimbas or fascist attacks in Venezuela. And I don't think it's an accident that Venezuela is organizing an anti-fascist front in Venezuela. It started last September, is going on today, and will carry on in the month of November. Now, I think it is perfectly just that Venezuela, as they say, is the epicenter of the world struggle against fascism. I guess it's a bit like the Republic in Spain before World War II, where all of the fascist forces are targeting Maduro to overthrow Maduro. This is a very serious situation, and I personally think that the holding of these anti-fascist fronts, anti-fascist meetings in Caracas is a valuable thing. It's a very important thing. And we talk about, foreign policy. How can we forget about Cuba? During the 4 years of the administration by Harris and Biden, of course, they carried out exactly all the sanctions and more that Trump instituted. However, something serious happened only a short while ago, when you had, by coincidence, on the one hand, the major blackouts in the country over a period of several days, connected coincidentally, had nothing to do with politics, but by the atmosphere, the devastating effects of Oscar. So during the course of the Biden Harris administration, you have Cuba suffering so much because of the twin effects of the blackouts, which is as a result in the main of the U.S. policy to disallow oil going into Cuba from various countries, as well as making it impossible for Cuba to buy the spare parts which are necessary to keep those grids going. So this happened under Biden and Harris. So what is what is the policy of United States against Cuba has been right from the beginning, when Mallory said in the 1960s, make the people suffer, starve, so they will rise up and blame the Cuban government and overthrow the Cuban government. So, what's been happening since 1960 and continued under the Democratic administration is also a genocide against the Cuban people. Bruno Rodriguez, in the UN speech a few days ago, he put all the facts on the line, showing how the U.S. blockade against Cuba affects the everyday life of the people. Even with their great health system, they are not able to keep up with certain services. So the birth rate has gone down. People, the age the age of living has also gone down. There are many factors that affected negatively. And putting this together, it isn't, they haven't committed genocide successfully in Cuba. Not that they don't want to. They have not been able to do it because of the resistance of the Cuban people. So this is also a policy of genocide. Irrespective of who wins the elections, both the Democrats and the Republicans, they are in favor, we know, of the policy against Cuba. And I think one thing we have to look at further is how the movement is going with regard to the third parties for this election as well as in the future.
Stay paying attention on that, as you were saying, but unfortunately this is all we have time right now in this brief from the South. Thank you, Arnold, for all your inputs and as always your collaboration with us.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. Continue on topic on the U.S. key presidential elections. We go live with a special envoy, Carlos Montero, for more details as the election enters its final stretch.
Good morning from the capital of the USA. We are really close to Election Day, one of the most important elections in the history of this country. Why we are here in this important avenue? Because I want to show you guys how USA is ready for tomorrow. Those are important stores, and they are very scared that tomorrow maybe there is violence. So what the owner of the store did, they put that plaque of good to see if there is violence, because it's a possibility. One of the most important papers of the USA, the one who has the most circulation, the USA Today, reflected very clear in the cover: prepping for protest and possible violence. Because what's happened if tomorrow, let's say, Kamala Harris wins the election and Donald Trump don't accept it, what his people are going to do? Those people, they say it is better to prevent anything of craziness, so that we cover our glasses windows with that good to see. Hopefully nothing is going to happen. But let's talk about what's going on today. The last day is going to be the end of a crazy campaign, that political campaign. We have two intents of assassination to one of candidates, the withdrawal of another candidate, the Vice President Kamala Harris took his place. But today, the two candidates, what they are going to do? Let's start with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is going to be in Pennsylvania. It's one of the states that could go to either party, to blue or red, Republican or Democrat. 19 electoral vote depends on that state. Kamala Harris is going to put all his cards in that state. It's going to be a different cities of the Pennsylvania, and one of those is going to be the closing at night. What she's going to do in Philadelphia, she's going to do an important act. It's going to have a lot of her followers, famous people. It's going to be Lady Gaga, it's going to be there. It's going to be Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is one of the most important communicators in the USA. She used to have a talk show, very famous, and they are going to support Kamala Harris. Let's wait to see what she has to say. Let's talk now about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to have a busy day. He's going to start in North Carolina, in Raleigh. North Carolina is another of the states that could go either way, Republican or Democrat. We don't know. Then he's going to go to Pennsylvania. He's going to go in two cities, and then he's going to finish this race, his campaign, in Michigan. Michigan is the same place where he finished in 2020 and 2016, so that's when he's going to close the campaign. A lot of things are happening here, and the most important is that all the polls say that's going to be a tight, very tight race, and those 7 states, they call it the pendulum state, they could go either way, can define this election. It's going to be a very important election. teleSUR English, teleSUR Spanish is going to be covering that, I mean, all the details, and we are going to bring you all the information as soon as it's happening. I go back to you at the studio.
Thank you, Carlos, for the latest information. We'll stay tuned with you in upcoming news brief. And we stay in the U.S. The last day of early voting is underway. Almost 50% of the electorate has already cast their ballots. Early voting in the presidential election has ended in several key states, while New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida still hold open races. More than 74 million people have already cast ballots, representing 47% of the total number of ballots cast in the 2020 presidential election, a remarkable increase in voter turnout this year. We stay on topic on the U.S. elections. Let's go live with a special envoy in Washington, Carlos Montero, for more details.
Hello, almost noon here in the capital of the USA. We are getting so close to election day, and the closer we get, the tougher it's going to be close to the White House. Before, when we were talking in the last hour or the hour before, we were really close to the White House in this beautiful green place, and security came and said, please, you have to move away from the White House. I guess the closer we get to election day, the tougher it's going to be to the White House. What do we do? What do we know right now? It's the last day of a long political campaign, unique in the history of the USA. During this political campaign, we have two assassination attacks against former President Donald Trump. We had the first candidate, Joe Biden, the president. He was in a debate against Donald Trump. He did so bad that the party said, it's better if we change candidate. Joe Biden, he's too old to be the next president of the USA. And then it was a moment of indecision. We didn't know who was going to replace him. And then Kamala Harris, Biden said, okay, he didn't want to leave. He believed that he could be to be the president for the next 4 years, but the party said, no way, there is no way you can be here. Kamala Harris is going to be the perfect candidate, and today is the last day. What are going to do the candidates today? Kamala Harris is going to be in Pennsylvania. That's one of the states that can define the election. There are 7 states that they can go either way, Republican or Democrat. Pennsylvania is one of those, and Kamala wants to be there. It's going to be during the day in different places, talking to the community, convincing them they have to vote for her, and it's going to close tonight in an important act where it's going to be Lady Gaga, it's going to be some of the artists that offer their support to her, and it's going to be also one of the most important journalists of this country, Oprah Winfrey, and Kamala is going to be the last word as a vice president tonight as a candidate for the Democrat Party. Donald Trump, a busy Monday. He's going to be in North Carolina. Another state could go either way. He's going to be in Raleigh. Then he's going to go to Pennsylvania. He's going to go to 2 towns in Pennsylvania. And then he's going to close in Missouri, where he's going to have a very important closing act in the same place he closed in the last election, 2020, and the one before 2016. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock, they're going to open the centers to vote. A lot of people vote in advance. The number is really amazing. It's almost 70 million people already vote, but tomorrow is going to be very important, especially knowing that all the polls, they give a head-to-head to Kamala Harris, to Donald Trump. Here in teleSUR, we are going to have a very important coverage in English and, of course, in Spanish. I hope you can follow us. We are going to start tomorrow very, very early, and I'm sure we are going to finish extremely late because it's very difficult that tomorrow we know who's going to win officially the future president of the USA. Even we are going to have an estimation of see where, in what way the direction is going. I hope you join us for that special coverage. Going back to you at the studios.
Thank you, Carlos, for the latest information on everything that is happening on the run-up for the key elections.